As we told at the top of the show, we've made it to October, which means those with sinus issues will probably be suffering even a little more for the next 2 months, the popular cold and flu season. So let's talk about sinusitis and how we can ease things a bit with consultant rhinologist Dr. Warren Mullings. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Thank you for having me.
Doc, what's the correct term? Because everybody, when someone to you say, me have sinus problem, what's the correct term? Is sinusitis it?
So it's actually called rhinosinusitis, which really just means that you have inflammation of the nose and the paranasal sinuses. Everybody has 8 sinuses, 2 above the eyes, 2 between, 2 below, and 2 behind the eyes. And they can all become inflamed. They're supposed to drain into the nose. So the correct term is inflammation of the nose and sinuses, called rhinosinusitis.
That's interesting, which is why a lot of times when you have those issues, they say you have a sinus headache.
Absolutely.
Or the eyes will hurt.
Absolutely. That's because the sinuses are around the eyes. So when they're inflamed, they can cause pain and discomfort around the eyes.
Is it common? Does the average person have an issue?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I recently just had a cold the other day, and my sinuses were a little inflamed. And we call it acute sinusitis. So about 40% of any population around the world every year will get an attack of acute sinusitis. It usually goes away in about 10 days or less. And so it's exceedingly common. There are some other uncommon conditions where you can have inflammation for much longer, 3 months or longer, and that happens in about 15% of the population. We call that chronic sinusitis. So acute sinusitis is exceedingly common.
Okay. What are some of the symptoms? When do you really know that that's what you have and not just a little irritation in the nose?
Absolutely. So usually people who have sinusitis will complain of a drip down the back of their nose. They may have nasal congestion, nasal obstruction, difficulty breathing through the nose, difficulty in their ability to smell, facial pain or congestion around the face. They may feel tired, fatigued. And those are primarily the main symptoms that they have. They may have a new onset cough, which they didn't have before. And usually that's associated with what we call rhinorrhea, or a drain to the front of the nose. And that may be colored or discolored, so it may be yellow or green, which are signs that it may be infected.
Yeah. Walk me through some of the things, particularly in Jamaica, that will trigger that. I know dust.
Absolutely. So there are a number of triggers. Allergies is just one of the triggers to which people have allergies to pollen, dust, dust mite, cockroach, a number of things that they may have. Absolutely. They may have an allergic response to. But some of the less common things are things like a deviated septum. So they may have bumped their nose at some point in their life. They have a broken septum on the inside, and it narrows the opening to the sinuses, and they easily become inflamed and obstructed, and they can't have drainage of the sinuses appropriately as it's supposed to drain, and it becomes infected. Other causes are some chronic diseases, chronic inflammatory diseases, such as rheumatoid arthritis, interestingly. They may have bad sinuses. As well, SLE, those people may have anything that predisposes you to inflammation can cause it.
Wow. My next question is, how do you avoid it? But it seems almost like it's unavoidable.
Well, you know, it is common for some point in your life to have had an acute sinusitis. And it's most commonly caused by viruses. So it's usually an infection from a virus. And it's very difficult to avoid. As you said, there's seasons, and you know, some people will be ill and somebody passes you and they pass the virus on to you. The thing about it is that usually with over-the-counter medications, Panadol, that these symptoms will go away. They're self-limiting in about 10 days or less. And so it isn't something that you should preoccupy your life with, so to speak. You may have a few episodes sometime in your lifetime. The issue that is a little bit more concerning is those who have the cold that won't go away. So they've been having this problem for 12 weeks or longer. It's affecting their life. They can't concentrate well at work. They're always congested. They're blocked up. They can't breathe through their nose well. And those are the people who really need specialist intervention, because it will not go away. And you need some kind of change in the way you're going about it.
Yeah. There's some people that I meet them and they say, oh, I always have sinus problem.
Yes.
And so they never get it treated.
Absolutely.
What issues can happen by not treating it and by allowing it to constantly be there and maybe become worse?
That's a great question. So What we don't talk a lot about necessarily is some of the effects that chronic sinusitis, for example, can have. You can have worsening inflammation in your lungs. So you can have a drip down the back of your throat, it goes down on your lungs. As you get older, it becomes harder and harder to breathe. Your asthma may become worsened, or you might find that you've had asthma as a child, but as an adult, your symptoms have just become more frequent and more severe. You can also have complications from sinusitis, such as it can have an infection that goes into the eye or even into the brain. And rarely, there have been people who've died from very bad invasive sinus disease. So
Wow.
it is a serious condition that you should address if you have ongoing symptoms for a long time, or you realize that your vision is deteriorating, you're having double vision, you're having headaches that just won't go away, you're feeling sick, you're always vomiting, your asthma is getting worse. Those are some of the warning signals that you should do something different.
Are there ways to differentiate a sinus headache different from a regular headache, different from a migraine? Different? Are there ways to?
So that's a great question. And the reason is a lot of people associate headaches with sinus disease. And they're not always the same, and they're not always linked at all. So one of the things that you have to do is that you have to identify that you have some of the other symptoms, that postnasal drip, that rhinorrhea, the drain at the front of the nose. And importantly, you have to prove sinusitis. So what I do, for example, is that I do an endoscopy. I pass a camera into the nose to see evidence of inflammation into the nose and sinuses. And we do what we call a CT scan. It's a specialized X-ray that takes special pictures, multiple of them, of all of the sinuses to see whether or not there's inflammation or infection within them. If there's evidence of sinus disease with the other symptoms and the headaches, then we can correlate them. If they're not, then it's usually not sinus disease.
Yes. What are some of the other things that because we were talking to, I don't remember which doctor it was on radio, and we were talking about halitosis, bad breath.
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the things we were saying is that if you don't treat your sinusitis and it drains,
Absolutely.
then you can have
can.
bad breath as a result.
Yeah, it's one of what we call the minor symptoms of sinusitis. Not minor in terms of its impact, but it's not one of the things that you commonly get, but it certainly can happen. Absolutely.
Are there other things that may happen? Will it affect the ear?
So you can have what we call oral fullness. So you feel as if you're underwater. If you've been underwater and you come up and your ear's full of water, you can have that feeling. You can have dizziness associated with it. You can have vomiting associated with it, strangely enough. You can just feel tired, sleepy, depressed. So it can have an effect on your personality and changing your personality. So you can have redness of the eyes. So both eyes may become cloudy, can become red, inflamed. So those are some of the other symptoms that you can have.
When do I move from self-diagnosing to actually going to see a specialist? So I'm saying, oh, I have a little sinus, I'm going to take 2 tablets.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to steam my nasal passage. When do you stop doing that and go to actually see a doctor?
So if you have acute sinusitis, for example, and you've had inflammation for a week and it's getting worse within that week, that's the time to see a doctor.
Okay.
If we call that double worsening, or if it's not getting better within 10 days, then you need to see a doctor. If you have chronic sinusitis that's going on longer than 3 months, and it's affecting your quality of life, that's when you need to see a specialist.
Right.
Somebody who specializes in sinus disease and treating and managing it. Absolutely, that's when you need to do something different.
We have to go, but there are also some food that can trigger it. I know Neville, if he looks at cheese, he's gone.
Yeah, so a lot of people speak about dairy products that can trigger sinus disease. There are a number of things that can trigger people's allergies as well. So things that they may be allergic to may cause inflammation in their nose and paranasal sinuses, may cause it to become obstructed and so on.
So find out what you're
Yeah, you can identify what you call your triggers and do avoidance therapy. That usually is associated with allergies, which is a little separate from sinusitis. So allergies and sinusitis not the same, but allergies or severe allergies certainly can lead to sinusitis or chronic sinusitis.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Consultant rhinologist, Dr. Warren Mullings. That's it for 10 Minutes to Your Health. We'll do it again next Thursday.